First, I'm going to describe more broadly what Tantra traditions are, what Tantra is. And Tantra traditions flourished all over the Eastern countries. And Kashmir Shaivism is actually just one variety of them. The word Tantra means, in essence, tan, which means to spread, and tra, to save. So Tantra is spreading or sharing that which saves us. Saves us from what? From suffering, from the delusion of sense of separation. And from the point of view of any tantric perspective, every experience we have is a potential doorway. Because everything is consciousness, then any event, any experience, any sensory experience, anything that we can name is a potential doorway to discover this directly. So in the tantric tradition, everything is approached as an opportunity, as a doorway, a potential doorway for us to discover this over and over and over again so that we get clear. And this includes what religions may either demean or prohibit. So, for example, sexual activity, drinking wine, such things are actually, in a tantric perspective, wonderful opportunities, just as wonderful as any other opportunity, including opportunities that we might want to avoid, such as feeling sad or having, some tragic loss, or anything that comes our way is equally a doorway. So if you could push the slides. So the tantric influence was very broad between about 600 to 1200 AD. And so spreading all the way from Afghanistan, what we see there now is Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal. You can't see Tibet because China won't let. I looked for a map in which I could show Tibet, but they've pretty much eliminated it from what you can find on Google. But the left lower portion of what says China is actually Tibet. Bhutan, which is the only remaining kingdom that is still tantric. All of those countries, all the way through down to Bali in Indonesia, and all the way up to Japan, and most of China and Mongolia, which you see just above China, that pink. All of those were tantric kingdoms. They were smaller, so there were over 900 tantric kingdoms during that period. So there was a very powerful influence that the Tantra perspective had. Actually, the roots of Tantra go even further back into the ancient pre-Vedic culture of India, shamanic culture of India, so the roots of Tantra. And there are a lot of features that date back from way back in those days, especially the worship of the female form as the primary sort of orientation to this amazing universe that has been birthed. Next slide, please. So this is Paradevi, the supreme goddess, who is the most venerated image of the divine mother, the divine goddess in the Kashmir Shaivism tradition. And other forms are also deeply venerated. So the form of Kali, probably many of you know about the form of Kali. So she's another face of the same goddess from this perspective. The fierce and frightening forms. In fact, all people and all life forms are regarded as her children. So this contrasts to the dualistic perspective that most religious traditions hold, East and West, which emphasize somehow that the world is evil or needs to be overcome, that we can't reach God unless we overcome the world. But Tantra actually says the opposite. No, it's right here all the time in everything. And for that reason, Tantra was opposed by traditions that had existed before it became sort of more influential, especially the Orthodox Vedic tradition in India. The Brahmins, the priestly caste, opposed Tantric being introduced. And they were very challenged by the fact that in Tantra, women were fully included. In fact, many of the gurus were female, and the founder of the particular the recognition school was founded by a female siddha or realized guru. And also so-called outcast, that was completely disregarded. Everybody was welcome. There was no, in fact, it was prohibited that people talk about caste in the meetings that were held because they didn't want to have that kind of distinction even acknowledged. And the teachers in this tradition generally have always been householders rather than renunciates or swamis. And I've had these two phases of my life where I became a swami for 12 years and then the completely different phase, which has been much more tantric since I met Kimberly, and we have, become parents and, living a life that is in no way sort of isolated in any way at all. The Heart of Recognition, this particular text, which is very dear to my heart, was published or written and written down at about 1000, the year 1000 in Kashmir, and the king of Kashmir was a patron of the recognition school. And so actually, if you go to the next slide, please, you may know that Kashmir is an immensely beautiful place surrounded by snow-capped Himalayan mountains and then these lakes. And Kashmir was a east-west cultural crossroad from Greece through Persia, across India, through Tibet, China, Mongolia. So there was a constant flow. This was like the middle of the Silk Road, where there was a constant culture interchange taking place. And consistent with the emphasis in the tantric traditions on the relishing sensory experiences as actually divine experiences, then in tantric culture, there was a lot of support for art forms. So, and especially there in Kashmir at that time, music and poetry and drama and painting and all of that was greatly supported by the king and was a major part of the tantric tradition, is the flourishing of the arts. Abhinavagupta, who's considered the greatest exponent of the Kashmir Shaivism tradition, is still, even today, considered India's greatest philosopher of aesthetics. And he holds a role similar to Aristotle, in terms of what we understand of the Greek tradition. So Abhinavagupta, in terms of aesthetics, had that sort of role of describing how to engage in our appreciation of life forms and art. This is one of the things he said. The ideal audience of a dramatic production appreciates the amazing skill of the playwright, actors in the stage setting. And he encouraged us to live as connoisseurs of every single experience of life as an expression of the divine play.